The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Your Vancouver Canucks lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets, but who cares? I don't. Jase DeSmith, really, really good once again. Andrei Kuzmenko. Something happened that made me think a lot about Andrei Kuzmenko. We'll talk about all that and some more, and your comments for real. You guys got to lead the show today. No Trevor again on this episode of Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen, but more importantly, this show right here is that show, man, with the West Coast bias, man, brought to you by Locked On and the Don't Doze Art Lab, man. None of this is possible without this seat right here, okay? Shout out to Don't Doze. Again, home of the West Coast bias. And this episode is also brought to you and powered by FanDuel, okay? Locked On FanDuel, good friends. The Packers, Cowboys, not good friends. But man, oh man, let's win you some money. FanDuel Locked On. I'm pretty sure you'll get what? $150 in bonus bets when you drop $5 on FanDuel. More on that later. Man, oh man, a lot happening in my life, your life. And for the players of the Vancouver Canucks, that was something else. That 7-game road trip was something else. And look at the way it ended against two crappy teams, two bad teams, two teams who have to give a lot more to their fan bases. And maybe that's a little strong of me to say, because I feel as if we just got here, right? The Canucks are good again. You and I are feeling like ourselves again. And it's mainly because of the hockey team. And here I am already demanding that other teams do it for their fan bases. We just got here. This all being said, we know it. We can hear it. The Blue Jackets, they've had good fans for a long time. They are not Arizona. They're 10 times what Arizona is. And I feel as if year after year after year, they just kind of get the worst. There was that stretch there a couple years ago where they were kind of relevant, but for the most part, they've been really, really bad. Anywho, we went into Columbus after barely leaving Buffalo. I mean, look at this, okay? Is Wallach right? They got into Buffalo about, 12 and a half hours prior to the game. So the pace in the beginning and the blah, 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 everything was just off. They got drained. The homie just brought up the pace of the game, the beginning of the game. The Canucks were on them. The Canucks could have scored maybe 3 or 4 goals. But after they didn't, the game kind of died. Their momentum, their energy. And because they were playing a really, really bad team, they were still able to lead in multiple times throughout the game, but ultimately lose in overtime. So again, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And who's the guy who scored the goals for Columbus? Who was that guy? Anyone see this guy's shootout goal? That was Swaggy. Speaking of Swaggy, look at the way Elvis, the goaltender for Columbus, celebrated after you stopped Pius Suter on the last shot. This guy won the Stanley Cup. I think the Stanchion tweeted that out. That made me laugh. That guy was celebrating hard. The Vancouver Canucks and their players have never celebrated that hard after a win. And they've won many times this season. And there was Elvis, again, winning the Stanley Cup. This all being said, I'm not going to do two things, okay? A, this is Kyle Bowen. This is Locked On Canucks. We're not going to go through the box score. We're not going to go through all the details. I'm just going to go through my feelings. And I'm feeling, B, okay with the loss. And that's maturity, okay? That's being 30 and a half years old. Again, that's maturity. I've come a long way. And I think this team has deserved the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not spewing out any negativity towards that team. Let's start by talking about Jase DeSmith, though, right? Jase DeSmith. That guy was something else today. He was too fun to watch. He was the best Canuck again. I feel like we've said that for 80% of this guy's starts. He's looked really, really good. Such a big reason why the Canucks are where they are in their standings. Their backup goaltender. It's like we've learned again that that's such a key to all of this. And not just having a good backup goaltender. I'm talking about having somebody who could be a starter for maybe 7 other teams. And I know the rules are different. Who knows what the pressure entails, right? When you're a number one goaltender. Maybe Casey DeSmith is the perfect number 2 goalie. He's found his good spot. He can only be a great backup. He can't be a good starter. But again, there is a crop of teams who would do a lot to get Casey DeSmith and this version of him in their lineup. I feel like the Oilers would want Casey DeSmith. What an unreal get for Patrick Allvin. Is that his best trade since being named GM? That and Philip Hronek? Because that was I guess both those trades. So much so a surprise. So much so, WTF. How'd that happen? Why'd that happen? Really? He was available? It gave you that feeling. And with Casey DeSmith and the Tanner Pearson trade and the draft pick that also went to Montreal, I wouldn't say there was a lot of skepticism, but there was not a lot of expectations. I mean, sure, he would be the backup and allow Silovs to groom more, right? They could get rid of Martin, blah, blah, blah. But making that trade and looking back at it, I'm just thinking of him as a backup goaltender, an NHLer. I didn't know he was going to be one of the best goaltenders in hockey this late into the season. And I know that's saying a lot, but look at his numbers. I think 7-4-2. No, 7-3-2. How many saves did he have today? Over 40? I know he let in, I would say, maybe one not perfect goal, but it still felt, man. Like this guy just did the most. How impressive has Casey DeSmith been? Is he the biggest asset this team has grabbed? A, is he impossible to bring back? Because I think so. I feel as if Casey DeSmith, he's probably looking for term after a season like this. At least 2 years, at least 3 years. Do the Canucks, A, give that to him? Can they give that to him with Silovs waiting to get some NHL experience too? How does that work? Casey DeSmith, big time goaltender for your Vancouver Canucks. Let's get to some of these comments, okay? The people, man, doing the most for Locked On, man. Shout out to all the new subscribers, all the new love. Again, I know the people at Locked On appreciate it. And man, oh man, the Don't Doze Art Lab. The Don't Doze Art Lab, man. Again, sometimes I feel like we invented the West Coast bias. We love that ish, okay? Anywho, Japan with the comment, okay? We don't play great in these early games, but end a long road trip at 5-1-1. Yeah, man, I feel as if this game was, at the end of the day, probably the hardest to win out of all those games, and that's because of the opponent and the possible underestimating, because, we're all humans at the end of the day, and this is a long road trip, and that's the team you face at the end of it versus the teams you faced prior, and that's also the game you got to play at 10 in the morning. It was going to be a difficult one, and even at 64%, the Canucks were an inch away from winning this game at various points throughout it, including in overtime where this team got a power play. And Pettersson, man, it's bad when Pettersson is taking a tripping penalty. Team was tired, man. 5-1-1 is damn impressive. Being resilient again. After some question, right? You lose to Philadelphia. Some question. You lose to St. Louis. What's going on? I told you regression. Regression is happening. Look at the percentages. Look at the math. This is when they fall off. What do they do after losing to St. Louis? They win 5-6. They go 5-0-1. They prove once again that they're just uber resilient, and that's the hope you need, man, going the rest of the way. I think some Canucks fans, maybe I'm just talking to myself, but you still get like that feeling of being a little worried that this is not completely real, right? That this is going to fall off. This can't be true. This is a turnaround for the history books. But then again, time and time again, this crop of players prove that they ultimately find the winning equation efficiently, okay? And they're also led by the most all-stars in the NHL. You know what? Maybe on the other side, we'll talk more about Philip Hronek, okay? Could the Canucks have gotten an extra guy in there, thus bring in the Big Six to the national stage? And I'm sure the Big Six is going to be talked about this Saturday when we face the Toronto Maple Leafs on Game 2 of that homestand, right? Philip Hronek. More on him in a couple minutes, and we'll also talk about Andrei Kuzmenko as well. But yo, we got to shout out FanDuel, man. I hope that y'all put some money on the Green Bay Packers, man. You're listening to Locked On Canucks. People, the NFL playoffs are here. Did you see what Jordan Love did yesterday against the Dallas Cowboys? Did you put money on the Packers? And did you use FanDuel to do so? I think you got to do that, okay? Get in on the action in the playoffs with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get what? $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That is multiplication at its finest, okay? That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, it is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to play, like same-game parlays. You can find new bets in the new Explore tab. And what? What's a Parlay Hub? You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup or a touchdown or an ass-kicking. The Green Bay Packers, man, did what to Dallas? Watch the highlights. Anywho, FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is not Trevor Beggs, okay? Becoming more and more of a true professional in his field, man. Beggsy, one of the hardest working guys I know, and he's got a family, so I'm not going to call him out or anything like that, but I know for sure that this guy did not take extended bathroom breaks to squeak in the game, okay? He didn't risk his job to watch some Canucks hockey at 10 in the morning on a Monday on the west coast, the best coast of Canada, okay? He didn't do the same thing that you might have done. Because again, he's a family man, family first. It is what it is. I do wonder though, how many people today spent 30 minutes in the washroom during their day job from the time of what? 10 o'clock to 12:30. How many people were watching the game recreationally at work, right? It's 2024. People are nicer, right? Watching the game is part of the self-care routine. Look, Fortune 500 companies, they're doing yoga prior to their lunch break, okay? Not at lunch, at their workplace. Why? Because self-care makes you more efficient. Maybe the people on the West Coast, the best coast of Canada, should start doing that for their employees, because more of us on this side of the world are going to, slowly join us and become addicted to everything Vancouver Canucks. Because this season is different. Wallach, man, he says that this season feels different as well. The worry and the resilience is a combination that's, again, always at an odds, right? Because you don't know if this is real. Like you're worrying, and then again, the Canucks just do the most, right? They pick up a dub. Even little things like this, right? You think about the game against Buffalo. The lotto line picks up no points. And what did they do today? 4 points combined. Looked pretty good in the first period. They got tired too in the second half of the game, but even they put the numbers up. Were quote unquote resilient. Doing the most. I think this team is finding more and more ways to be resilient this time around. Again, this season is different for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons I think that we don't talk about enough, because I think Quinn Hughes is so elite and is taking away some of the shine / also used as a point of leverage in the argument that Philip Hronek is being propped up by Quinn Hughes. Like, he's not that good. He's just this good because of Quinn Hughes, when I've been saying this day after day after day after day for you and you and you and you. Because I think there's so much truth to this, right? For real. Maybe Quinn Hughes is so good this year because of Philip Hronek. And not just because Philip Hronek is such a grand upgrade over Luke Shen and Ethan Bear and Noah Juleson. The other guys, Quinn Hughes, was playing with. Maybe because Philip Hronek is one of the best 20 defensemen in hockey. And if not in the top 20, maybe he's in the top 25. And if he's not in the top 25, maybe he's in the top 17. You got what I'm saying? He's been really good for almost 2 full seasons. That's just the truth. I've been so impressed, especially recently, from what I've seen from Philip Hronek. And I think prior to this recency bias that I've consumed with Philip, Trevor Beggs, man, again, you may not believe this. He is the darkest guy on the program. Look at us. Go to a prior episode. Tell me who's the darkest guy on the show after watching us. It's Beggsy. And he was demanding that Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek get split up. Who didn't agree with that? I didn't agree with that. Why? Because I'm poised. I'm calm. I'm confident. I also don't got an ego. Trevor Beggs, how do you think you know more than Philip Hronek and Quinn Hughes after what they showed you in October and November? You got to keep those guys together. Also, Trevor Beggs constantly saying, man, and I'm paraphrasing here, okay? I'm putting words in his mouth, but he was practically saying, dude, it's okay that Philip Hronek has watered down, has started to struggle, and maybe we'll start saving millions off that next contract. Maybe he's not a $7.5, $8 million per year defenseman, okay? It's a good thing. He's really this guy at 5.75, a 6.25 per year type of defenseman. And not only was Trevor saying that, I feel as if a lot of other people were saying that as well. We got to wait to see what this guy does without Quinn Hughes. We can't expect this guy to get paid $8 million, blah, blah, blah. Look, I want the best for Philip Hronek. He is the number 2 defenseman on your Vancouver Canucks. He may be a top 20 defenseman on the Vancouver in the NHL. And I want the best out of him. And if that's the case, if he plays at a top tier level constantly, like it or not, even though you should be loving it, bruh, he's probably a $7.5 to an $8 million defenseman, which is scary, but also a beautiful thing. Now, let's say he plays 10 years with the Canucks. I have no doubt in my mind that he's at the end of that 10-year metaphorical sphere that I just created. He's probably a top 2, top 3 Canucks defenseman of all time. He's really, really good. What an ad. What an ad. And what an addition to Quinn Hughes' game. I thought he had a really, really strong road trip. He looked good the last 2 games. I actually kind of called him out in Buffalo, and then I realized the beautiful play he did make. No, I called him out during the Pittsburgh game, I'm sorry. Didn't think he was that strong. I thought, again, the second half of that Pittsburgh game, the Canucks looked a little tired, and they were getting pinned against another team full of superstars, albeit older superstars nonetheless. And I didn't think Philip Hronek had the perfect game, but then when you break down what he did on the Pettersson OT goal, that was smooth, that was clean, and that was also resilient. Philip Hronek this season has been ridiculed sometimes for his play on odd man rushes. And I feel as if he cleaned that up multiple times throughout this road trip. What a player. Let's get to the comments, okay? G. Ellis, Quinn Hughes is getting less than $8 million, thus making what? Hronek uneligible to make more than Quinn Hughes, or, make 7.5 plus. I get I get where that's coming from, but that deal that Quinn Hughes signed was a steal and signed quite a long time ago. Filip Hronek is an expensive defenseman. Filip Hronek is a really good defenseman. Filip Hronek makes you a winner. It's okay to pay Filip Hronek a lot of money. Look, I think when we're bringing up things like this, right? Shout out to GLS. Shout out to everyone again watching. One love to all the listeners and the viewers. GLS bringing up the whole, again, you can't pay another defenseman more than Quinn Hughes. Some people were talking about this with Miller too. I think Don Taylor was saying it, right? He said something amongst the lines of, how can you pay Pettersson more than $8 million if JT Miller's making $8 million, right? And it kind of does circle back to Elias Pettersson. I think even though I've been open about him making whatever he wants, okay, I think he's worth the most. It's hard to overpay for guys like that. He changes the game. He's a game breaker. One love to Pettersson. He shifts culture. Just stay in Vancouver. I'm taking the easy route. And then we got some smarter people talking about how, he should maybe make less so he can set the tone for future contracts. Like, let's say he takes less on this deal, whatever this deal is. Well, what if he takes $1 million less? What if he takes 1.5 less per? Does he set the tone for the rest of the organization to kind of move in the same way where if you're a Vancouver Canuck, you're team first outside of what you do on the ice? Like, we're moving. What's the saying? We're standing on business also, okay? In all regards, you're playing the team game. In the books, we're playing the team game. If Pettersson does that, prior to Filip Hronek also signing an extension, I think we can save some money on Filip Hronek's deal. That's just the truth. You know how I said Pettersson is the one that shifts culture? Look at the way he competes. Look at the way he exudes effort on every shift. Look at the way he's displaying brilliance, execution. He's an assassin, one of the most highly skilled players on your team, also being one of the hardest working players in the league. He sets the culture on the ice. Maybe he sets the culture off the ice too. Like, if you come into Vancouver, know that it's not about you. It's not about you first. It's not about your goals first. It's about getting this cup and, again, standing on business. Let's talk about Kuzmenko, okay? At the end of the day, we got to bring it up because something happened during the game that made me think a little, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but something just happened in my heart. And again, this is not a box score show on the post-game show. This is just feelings, okay? And I want to talk about Kuzmenko. Maybe you can help me out with my feelings. But first, we got to shout out our friends, okay? Not only are the people at the LOCKEDON Podcast Network our friends, we have friends at Gametime as well. Okay, people, I got to be honest with you, okay? Look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. And it's not about the numbers, but hey, LOCKEDON Canucks is still growing. And because it's still growing, I can't shell out the tickets or shell out the money for tickets unless I'm using Gametime, okay? It's just the truth. Gametime is the place to go when you're looking for last-minute deals and you're trying to save some money, okay? You shouldn't have to worry when you have to buy tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, okay? Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. What are those? Go check out the Gametime app. It does a lot for you. It makes going to the game not only desirable, but simpler. Gametime, man, they working for you. They on your team. It's just the truth. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you a complete peace of mind with your purchase. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. What? An hour after it starts? Again, last minute deals on Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We back on another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen, and that right there again is not Trevor Beggs being the second best dad in the world. He will be back tomorrow, and I know he's itching, man. He's itching to get some Canucks talk off his chest. I think he gets a low key jealous, man. I think he's getting low key jealous of the fact that I'm only talking to you and you and you and you and you. Again, we're so privileged to be doing this. I can only imagine how Trevor Beggs is feeling from missing out on his dream, man. His dream, his dream's been for years and years and years. Decades. We've been around for 3 decades. Decades and decades. To talk about the Vancouver Canucks with, again, you. Shout out to the city. Look at this, man. Look at this. G. Ellis, one of the best commenters on the show, okay? Always providing insight and making me a better person. Rutherford and Alvin should start preaching about winning the cup, and everyone on the team will take discounts going forward. Money isn't everything. Look, money is not everything. That's the truth. But we don't know what these guys want to buy. You know what I'm saying? We don't know their dreams. We don't know what their goals are. What if Pettersson wants to make more money because he wants to invest in gumballs? Okay? Maybe this guy wants to open up more IKEAs. I don't know. We don't know his dreams. You got what I'm saying? It is what it is. But I think Pettersson, again, he's an assassin, right? This guy's a smart guy. He knows how to do calculations on the ice. You best believe he knows how to do calculations in the hockey world off the ice. He knows that if he takes less, the team will be better. And if he takes less, other players will take less and thus make the ability to be a better team moving forward consistently more possible. Like, he knows that. We know that. He knows that too. And it's okay that he may need some more convincing because, what's happening right now, it's what, game 43, game 42. You do the math. I'm just Kyle Bowen. It's still early, man. It's still so early. And we say it all the time, right? These games don't matter. Like, when you're really good and your dreams are somewhere else and you're thinking about the Stanley Cup, I'm sorry, game 43 is not memorable. That's why I keep asking the question, man. How many rounds of playoff hockey does this team have to win in order to get to a point where Pettersson is like, yeah, this team's a winner. I'm going to take less so we can build, what's the word the kids are saying? A wagon, right? Or a train. I think they got to get to the Western Conference Finals, man. I think the city's got to get loud. I think the city's got to be inches away from destiny for him to feel that feeling. Actually, you know what? I just lied to you, man. I just lied to you because I'm just talking out loud. Remember, this is a feeling show. And we'll get to Kuzmenko very soon. But maybe, just maybe, he signs a contract extension after game 1 of round 1. Because he's never even experienced that. And that's the best coast, the west coast of Canada, packing up that building. Rogers Arena for a playoff game. Wait till he feels that. Maybe in that very moment, it'll all make sense. And ironically, he will make less sense on that contract. Okay, let's talk about Kuzmenko. I think it does relate to the playoffs. There's my segue. There was a moment in overtime, 2-on-1 with Pettersson, and Kuzmenko fumbles the puck. Maybe it was a bad pass. I don't know. On the second half of that 2-on-1, and next thing you know, there's no goal. In fact, the play continues, and he dominates with the puck after finding it in the corner and gets another great chance. And that great chance does not lead to a goal. And then he gets a shot at breaking the ice during the shootout, and he looks boring. Doesn't get the job done. Doesn't find the back of the net. And I think Jeff Pettersson brought this up. I don't know if it's true, man. I'm not calling him a liar. This stat just seems so ridiculous that somebody's got to do the research, but he was saying that Kuzmenko hasn't picked up an assist in a game since that Islanders game. Is that correct? That can't be right. That can't be right. Can somebody check that? Am I saying it wrong? And maybe I am wrong and saying it wrong, but man, oh man, this guy cannot have more than 5 or 6 points since the top of December. Like, he's probably at 5 or probably at 6. He can't have more than that. And that is a problem. I think that second line has been fine. I was about to say has been a 5 out of 10. I didn't want to be harsh, so I used fine. But I think I'm going to actually use that, okay? They've been like 5 out of 10. Very average. I think they've generated some chances, but chances are only so exciting when you're in the quote unquote top 6, right? That's just the truth. These guys got to bury. Mikheyev, no goals in 11 now. Pius Suter kind of slowed down, still doing the most, still really, really good defensively. And Kuzmenko, man, you got to bury on your chances. Aaron Phillip being nice. Again, I brought this up. He's talking about 96 fumbling the pass, but he did really well after that to create offense. I think that they had 2 shots off that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I know. Kuzmenko, he hustled. He worked hard to get that puck back, did the most, generated another chance, almost scored a goal. This narrative, this spiel that I'm having with you right now wouldn't exist. Okay? Well, we'd be in a different simulation, but the fact of the matter is he didn't score. That would have been huge. Now, maybe I should look at this the other way. Okay, maybe he takes what he did in overtime and some of that pizzazz and brings it against Arizona on Thursday. And if he does that, maybe he does that on primetime on Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look, I want to beat the Maple Leafs. I want to kick their ass. Straight up. Straight up. I want Brock Besser scoring a hat trick. I want to shut down Austin Matthews. I want to also create that separation completely away from the Toronto Maple Leafs, because I feel as if they're still in that bracket with the Jets and the Canucks. I want to stay away from them. And we can do that on primetime. And I do believe we played a pretty horrible game against them sometime in November, right? I watched that at Tap House, man. I was at Tap House with the homies. There's some people watching the BC Lions playoff game too, and there's this old guy, this really old guy who got so drunk he stumbled and almost hit his head against the ledge and he almost died. It was crazy. I didn't know people got that wild at a BC Lions game at Tap House, you know? Something else. Let's get to the comments. Andy Gill, Kyle is such a cutie. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't even know if I'm not. Okay, you know what? Thanks, man. Accepting that love, you know? Remember, last week, my girlfriend gave me a hug from behind, looked at the top of my head. I'll show you the top of my head. I'll show you what I'm working with. Let's go. Let's go. We open here. Look at this. My girlfriend came out to me, hugged me from behind, and called out my bald spot at the top of my head, okay? So that compliment from Andy, thank you, brother. We got to look out for each other, right? You got to look out for your neighbors, your brothers. How about this comment? Callum Sandu. Did you even notice Boone Jenner this morning? Do you think he would be a good fit for the Vancouver Canucks? I think Boone Jenner, alongside Patrick Laine and Zach Werenski, were all hurt. How the hell did we lose to this team, man? How did we lose to the Blue Jackets? I'll tell you why, yo, because they just flew into Columbus, 12 hours ago? Or they were driving around country to country, flying from different airports just to play this game at 10 in the morning. And they were stuck in a snowstorm in Buffalo, thus causing all these issues. Look, that is depressing, okay? Imagine being in Buffalo during a snowstorm. Buffalo. Crazy, man. Today was a tough game. It was a tougher game than the one against the New York Rangers. Just the truth. How about this comment? Junior, I've been trolling Toronto large the last week in the comments on their channels. Look at this guy. That's how you got to do it. You got to have that spirit. You got to have that confidence. And, I brought it up 20 minutes ago, and maybe we'll end on this note, Sometimes the worry is still within me, the trauma, is this real? Is this real? And then right away the Canucks do the most to swing me back and bring me back on this delusion and this course that is geared towards the Stanley Cup. And Junior, I feel as if this guy constantly has that swagger. Okay, he doesn't have the amount of strength that I do. Okay, my level of strength is low and Junior's strength is high. He's able to keep it together the whole time. And he's not scared of nobody. He's not scared of whoever we're going to face in the Stanley Cup Finals. And you best believe, and I got to say this every time at the end of episodes, he's not scared of the Edmonton Oilers. I know we ended them months ago. Talked a lot of ish, okay? And now they're back. And now there's a 50% chance that we're going to be there with them in the playoffs. It's going to be heaty, right? Very heaty. Hockey night in Canada every night during that series. And the narratives are going to be out. And the assumptions, I think the regression talk and all that jazz will be brought back up. And then you got to take the regression and face off against Connor McDavid and blah, blah, blah. Look, the Vancouver Canucks, those men rocking those jerseys, representing your city, your favorite team. Again, they're doing the most. They're playing their hardest. They're bringing it together. They're peaking. And they're going to peak some more. And they're saying all the right things. And they're competing. And again, they're bringing you the juice. They deserve that arrogance, that confidence, that understanding that, yo, we're actually good. And a first-place team is not going to be scared or concerned about what they got to do against the team they play in the first round of the playoffs. Look, it's going to be a challenge, but we got to send that confidence to the boys, okay? Not be worried of the Edmonton Oilers. Anyways, my name, Kyle Bound, Kyle Bhawan. Shout out to all the people watching this. The Columbus Blue Jackets, somehow without Laine Werenski, Boone Jenner, beat the elite Vancouver Canucks. It is what it is. Good morning. Good afternoon. You know what I'm saying? It's tough to do this job sometimes. 7-game road trip, 5-1. After a snowstorm, this loss was inevitable. Shout out to Casey DeSmith. Played an unbelievable game. What an asset. What an acquisition. Shout out to Patrick Alvine. And shout out to you and you and you and you and you and you and FanDuel and Gametime and the people at the Locked On Podcast Network. Have a good morning, a good afternoon, a good night. I don't know when you're listening to this, but hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.